This is Steve Zeltzer with Workweek, and today we are going to look at the issue of healthcare workers and the protection of healthcare workers, their work rights, their union rights, and their right to speak up about concerns that they have on the shop floor, on the job. Because in this crisis of COVID, the issue of protection of health and safety rights, the issue of protection of workers' right to speak out is a critical issue. It could be a life and death issue for the protection of people in healthcare and other industries. And joining us today is W.D. Flint. He was a shop steward, senior shop steward at ARF in San Francisco, the Department of Public Health. And he's been an activist and speaking out against the bullying that's going on against the workers there. And they've had some rallies there to protest the effort to shut it down and force these disabled people who had mental health problems out in the street. And he took up a struggle around that and spoke up against the bullying. And also joining us is Dellfinia Hardy. She's a chief steward, Jill Hill Services, and she's on the executive board of the healthcare industry of SEIU 1021. So welcome both of you to Workweek.
Thank you.
So, okay, why don't we start with you, WD, because I've had you on Workweek before talking about the issue of the bullying, and I interviewed you at that rally that was held at ARF and what was going on there. They were trying to close it down and force people into a nonprofit services out in the street. And some of these people, and there were empty beds there. Apparently there was a big scandal there because they had empty beds which they were not using, and yet they wanted to close it down.
Which I still don't understand their apparent resolvement of this issue, because it was indicated to us that these beds were open all the time. We were told by the director, Linda Sims, that these beds were not available because of a state sanction and that she could not put anybody in them. We've come to find out over the last couple of years, those beds have always been open. She is the one that lied and kept them open. And my complaint is that after this was found out, why did they not do an audit? Each one of those beds represents a certain amount of funds that should be dedicated to a patient, to a client. Now, if those beds have stayed open for such a long time, where is the money that should be allocated for those beds? That has been passed over, skipped over. And I think it should be looked into. This is something that made them really kind of upset with me. And I guess they started to try and threaten me. I'm used to threats. I'm a veteran, but they don't mean that much. I mean, I'm probably the last guy you want to threaten.
So they picked on the wrong person.
Yeah, I would say, I just was like most of these workers in this particular sector. I wanted to get a job, and I just wanted to kind of keep cranking out this job until the crank stopped and not bother anybody, and they not bother me, but that was not the story.
And you tried to do your job. You tried to properly protect people and the clients, and you were bullied. And actually, when I first interviewed you, you said that they had actually tried to revoke your license, your statewide medical license, and you had to fight that.
Well, actually, what they did was amazing. As I went online to try and renew my license, I had been getting prompts from Department of Public Health that my license was due to expire soon, and they did this a month in advance. Now, they never did anything like this. I've always been responsible for renewing my license. But as I went online to the state did not even recognize my name. I've been in the system 33 years, and they indicated name unknown, et cetera, et cetera. And then later on, I got another letter from DPH of Mr. Llewellyn something. He's part of HR. And frankly, this guy, I feel, was involved in this. And they indicated that unless I had my license up and active by August 1st, I'll be terminated from my position. And I'm saying, it seems like these things are coming at the same time. And so finally realizing that I was having a problem, I drove down, I paid for my license. There was something else too. I get to the window, 5 minutes to 5. I tell him I want to pay for my license. The guy goes around the corner, he talks to this woman at the first desk, and I have knowledge of her. She's probably connected with the city. And they tell him that I cannot pay with my card. I have to pay with cash. Well, I'm a pool player, so I have cash on me, And I paid him in cash, and he was surprised to see that I had close to $500 in cash, but he had to give me a receipt. I get the receipt, I return back to the workplace, I send it by email to all the department heads indicating that I'm valid, and they tell me they will not accept it until it appears on screen with the nursing board website. Well, I'm saying the license is all you requested for 20 years. Why now would you not accept it? Why now am I not allowed in the workplace? This was a fraud set up by people in the city and people with the state, and they're going to find out shortly that what they did was a felony.
I mean, it seems to be criminal that they would conspire to
It is
take away your
criminal.
license, your ability to work.
Exactly.
In order to retaliate against you. And you also had grievances against bullying, and you were standing up for other workers that were being bullied, which is epidemic within the city and county of San Francisco. That has been going on for a long time. So you're still fighting that, and you still have your struggle that you're ongoing with.
Well, yes, I was terminated on the 5th of March after 2 meetings to determine whether there was enough evidence to fire me. And these meetings were held eliminating and ignoring the procedural aspects of finding out about what happened and then terminating me if necessary. I mean, they just skipped several steps. So you could tell that there was something behind this termination.
And this was the new Human Resources Director, Michael Brown, who used to be the Secretary of Civil Service Commission, the Executive Director, and now he's head of DPH Human Resources. Was he involved in this?
He may have been involved subtly. I didn't have direct contact with him. I had plenty of exposure to Michael Brown over the 20 years I've been there. I found that Michael Brown, in a situation like mine, when I make a complaint against management, they will send me or other African Americans to Michael Brown because whatever actions he takes, they feel that negates the possibility that he might be racist. But Michael Brown is a puppet. He will do whatever they tell him to do. In my first instance, when I was about to be terminated, I was asking for an arbitration. Michael Brown told me openly that unless you get rid of this arbitration, I'm going to fire you. But if you eliminate the possibility of arbitration, we're going to retrain you and start you again. So I took some time to think about it. In about 7 days, I recontacted him online, and I indicated to him that I would never give up my rights. That's just not something you do. But when I sent the email to him, it was in midday. I sent it to several other members, including Dellfinia Hardy. And once I sent that to him, he immediately responded, indicating you will be terminated at the end of the business day. So he sent those emails to everybody else. So I've got plenty of witnesses to this. Michael Brown being elevated in DPH is a laugh, but then again, it's not surprising because the whole system there is corrupt, extremely corrupt.
Okay, well, thanks for that insight on the kind of dangers that workers are facing who are trying to protect their health and safety and trying to protect the jobs and the protection of the public services in the Department of Public Health. Also joining us is Dellfinia Hardy. Welcome. Why don't you talk as a worker, a steward, your struggle to protect the workers and the people that you're really trying to help out as an LVN.
Okay, I'm also the president of the Community Public Health.
Okay.
My experience with attempting to help members for SEIU Local 1021, it's been a struggle, but it's been a fight, and it's something that is doable. I even had my own experiences with retaliation and trying to help other members. And under the new administration, we have down at the jails, at DHR, it's been a struggle. So with me helping them, the fight, you need backup. You can't just do it by yourself. So you need backup. And to be honest, when I think of the things that happens, it's retaliation. And when I think of retaliation, it's the action that someone doesn't, it's an action of return attacks when someone doesn't like what you're doing or they don't like what you agree with. And I have to respectfully say, Mayor London Breed, the Board of Supervisors, and the district attorneys, I'm sure they're all greatly aware of all the retaliation that goes on with African Americans working in the city and county of San Francisco. So with that being said, I believe there should be a review, and there should be checks and balances with combined unbiases, rationales, and a fair amount of group of people from the union and the city and county to watch over DHR, the managers, to watch over the department heads, the first level managers and supervisors that are the ones practicing the retaliation, because all of these staff are the chain of command that allow each other. And when I say each other, when DHR know that their manager has retaliated against an employee, they cover each other's back. So they need checks and balances. They need a proper amount of people from both sides with unbiases that'll deal with it, deal with the issues that we have. And so with me being a representative for some of these members, I have found a lot of retaliation. I have found that they got terminated, that they're put on probation and everything. So in my case, when I got retaliated against, because my director of nursing at the time did not like that I was active in the union. I had a voice of my own. I didn't go along to get along. He had a lot of people that was, I think, were scared of him or intimidated of him, come together and to have this big investigation against me and stuff. And to this day, I haven't got a response from the city because they know it was all about my character. They don't like that I speak up. It basically wasn't about my work ethics. And this is what I've been finding with other members. It's not about their work ethics. It's about retaliation of things that they don't like that they did. So as me representing them and having to deal with it as a shop steward, I get short end of the stick too, because I'm very strong for the African Americans, for other cultures, to fight for what we believe in. And if it's, and according to the union, if it's not in the contract, then it's not nothing they can really do. Which in my case, I did have Umar and other members of the union help me with mine to help fight it. And I'm appreciative of it, but I shouldn't have to go through any of that if I'm a shop steward representing members and myself and stuff. There's nothing in place on either side for the retaliation. And also I wanna add, when you think of retaliation, you know, you have to think of, even though it's something that someone don't agree with you, you have to think of the hostility, where your manager openly is hostile to you at work, which it could be ignoring you. I've had that where I'm ignored, and other people, they ignore me, they don't put me, and when I say ignored, I mean like when there's a meeting, and as me being a representative for the union, someone that speaks out and on different boards and on the e-board, when I say they ignore you, they don't include you in the decision making, right? They keep you out of meetings. They lie about you to coworkers. And these are your managers on up, and DHR goes along with it. So I can understand that DHR, they should have biases. They should have, not biases, they should have checks and balances, instead of just automatically want to do an investigation to get you terminated and break down your character and break you down as a person. And a lot of African Americans in the city, they get this. This is what happens to them. And WD, unfortunately, is one of them. They block promotions, they block benefits. This is all the retaliation. They ostracize you, leave you out of work-related decisions that you have a good mind to help. You know, and so racial retaliation, biases on African Americans by some of these department heads and managers and stuff, it goes unnoticed, not because they don't know about it, but when I say they, I mean managers and stuff like that. It's because they want to ignore it. You see what I'm saying? So my experience for myself, members like WD and other members that I have helped, it's all about retaliation. It's all about getting the people out here to not hear their voice. So that's my experience with
of course, that seems to be systemic and has gone on for a long time. There were hearings last year, 2 days hearings of systemic racism, where African-American workers and other workers talked about systemic racism, blatant racist attacks, discrimination, and retaliation against African-American workers. So there's a long history of that. One of the demands that some of the workers were making was that that Micki Callahan, who's a director of human resources, be removed. That she was aware of what was going on and that she should be held accountable. And also the city and county of San Francisco has spent over $70 million for illegal discharges, for bullying and harassing employees, for paying for attorneys. Yeah.
Let me just be clear and make it, let me be clear and be truthful, because that's where I stand. Now, I haven't worked much with Micki Callahan, and I have worked with Michael Brown and experienced that, and this is for my personal issues I've had. And the experience that WD experienced about Michael Brown, I haven't had that. Okay, and then with Micki Callahan, the experience where they want her removed, where she's not doing anything, maybe so. But in my issue, I have to say that Micki Callahan did come through for me of the letter she wrote of the attack that happened to me at work. And this is where my boss and them, they put it all in that, and they put it all in that report that they tried to do an investigation on my character to suspend me for 5 days, and that can lead up to progressive discipline, where her letter helped me. And this is why the city has not given me a report about what they're gonna suspend me for 5 days. I have to say, in my personal case, yes, but as far as experiencing any of that with other members, I haven't had to go that high. Now, LaWanna Preston, in a meeting we had with her, who's a lead negotiation, she should have never been in the meeting with me about the retaliation that my boss put on me, because it was turned around to belittle my character, belittle me as an African-American, and the members from the union that were there. At that point, I was told, well, it wasn't a grievable issue. Well, if it wasn't a grievable issue, why are we here with LaWanna Preston, Rhonda Simmons, and members like that? You see what I'm saying? So I understand where there's a troubled system that needs to be built up on top of what they have. They need to fix that when they're dealing with employees, because it's not right. They need to look at these people and make some checks and balances for these people. But I understand where WD had his issues, because they've been wanting WD out of San Francisco for a long time. And I do know that. So he has to keep fighting. I've been a support system. We don't always agree on things, but I will support him because he has a valid point that the city needs to understand. Micki Callahan, if she want to do the right thing, her and Mary London Breed need to talk about getting the department heads from DHR down to getting this together, because I've been on my job 15 years and I haven't had these type of problems. And in that investigatory report, they want to bring up stuff that happened 15 years ago and things that happened 6 years ago. This all is about attacking my character for being a representative for members, for fighting, having a voice, and not going along to get along, not straddling the fence. And this is the same thing that has happened with WB. So it also, I want to say that, according to Turner Erlanger, who's a PhD, and she says decades of research have noted the impact of discrimination and racism on the psychological health of communications of people of color. And this is true for San Francisco. When they treat us like this, it becomes a psychological problem, an issue, and no one wants to deal with that. They want to ignore the African-American agenda as far as being retaliated, as being the first fired, the last hired. They want to ignore that. This is still happening today. So I understand WD has to continue to fight. I have to continue to fight. and we still have to support each other. That's what we need, a strong team to support, not straddle the fence. As African Americans, there's no place to straddle the fence. We have to fight to the bitter end, and not physical, because they believe we should physically fight. No, we should not physically fight. We have to fight on paper. We have to fight and protest, and we need both the union and both the city to come together and deal with these issues that we have as African Americans.
Well, if there's systemic discrimination, and there has been in the history of this country, African Americans have been attacked, they've been bullied, they've been murdered, and it continues to be murdered in the streets.
Still today.
Still today.
I'd like
to talk about Juneteenth. I mean, this is going on. People are treated, African Americans are treated not like human beings, with respect.
Right.
I'd like to speak to something that Dellfinia brought up. Yes, we have known each other a long time. We're friends. And frankly, we don't always see things the right way, the same way.
The same way, right.
But the thing that I wanted to do, because they were targeting both of us, I didn't want us to be so close together to where they attack us like in a little ball, like we co-conspirators, you know?
Right.
DPH is good for this. Another thing, as far as the legality of what they do, many times they'll put you at risk for physical attack. They put me at risk for physical attack. I wasn't good enough to give medications and all these things, but yet when they don't have a charge nurse, they've had me replace the charge nurse on many occasions. And the reason being is because they have violent people that have come from inmate status to that unit. So the charge nurses would fight over me to have me there. I've worked in the prisons, okay? I've been trained with self-defense. And the thing is, I can communicate basically with people that come from the jails and the prison because I have worked there and I know what it takes. And I also am not physically, intimidated by them at all, okay?
That's a professional thing. I mean, that training that you have.
I have to have that training. I work in the jails and the prisons. That's right. That's like going to school and not having pencils.
So I mean, the fact that you're targeted means they're getting rid of a professional who knows how to handle people, who can deal with these issues.
Absolutely. And
that's not what they're concerned about.
That's not what they're concerned about.
That's not what management is concerned about. They're concerned about getting you out because you speak up. You have a voice and you don't go along to get along. And they don't want to hear what you have to say. That's what it's about. You know, if they can put you in a position like they did WD to deal with a charge nurse position, and he have to deal with these hostile clients and stuff, then it puts him in a vulnerable position to have to deal with it. How do you deal with that if you're not trained as an African American to deal with that? Because, you know, most people, they get upset, they ready to fight and stuff, and in order for us to deal with these type of clients, we have to learn to be calm, as we always have been, because of the racism. We have to learn to be calm and not let the racism get to us. How long do we have to keep doing that? So they put him in a vulnerable position to deal with these hostile clients. So the charge nurse with her scary self, his scary self, can go off and do something else.
They go hide in the break room. They go hide in the break room.
That's your position.
If I'm in that position, I should have some backup. I have not had backup. I have not been able to count on backup. But one of the things I've been trying to get members to understand, you need to learn how to collect evidence.
Right.
Collect evidence timely. Have people that are there. When something happens to you, don't keep it to yourself. These are the documents I was given over a 6-month period of complaints against me by staff, by Linda Sims, by Ingrid Thompson, the director of nurses, after I called him out for bullying and falsification of documentation. These documents state so many things that supposedly I did. And in some instances, they say I may or may not have done it.
It's called,
all these things are what they're adding to my record.
Constructive discharge. They want to construct a case to discharge you. That's what
exactly.
That's the
but
language.
Then again, there was no discipline. There's a progressive stage of discipline I'm supposed to go through. There was no discipline ever for me. And one other thing, all these charges, they made 78 charges against me, medication charges supposedly, and I'm saying the one medication charge they call you in the office. But of all these charges they made, there was not one incident report filed. Not one.
Okay. That's what I don't understand, WD, is that first of all, you say that they give you paperwork of people that has a problem with you. Why didn't they take care of it on the first 2 or 3? Okay, the first one, yeah, okay, we'll deal with it. We'll see how it goes. The second one, okay, we got another one. Let me kind of talk to him, you know, and then the third one. But now you have, what is it, 78?
78, but you see, they didn't do it this way. They didn't do it this way. Once I attended that rally, once I did that rally, and I talked about the bullying, and I talked about the connection with the state as far as trying to deny the application of my license, okay, they got desperate. So they did this all within a 2-month period. They concocted this together. This is like the Frankenstein monster. They put it together in a hurry, okay? And then this guy, Llewellyn Keller, he's from HR. And he's the little guy that looks up information, and he will misrepresent many things about an employee. He indicated that I had a history of inattention to duty. Okay, he went on to say I have a history of this, and I was this way in the jails and blah 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 blah. But had he searched carefully, he would have recognized that with a charge brought against me by one of my former supervisors, and we went to arbitration for that. That was dismissed and kicked out. But right after I prevailed in the arbitration, I was charged again by the nursing board and the data bank of the same thing, double jeopardy. And I came in contact with the attorney general, and her name was Kim Sessions. So she's getting me ready for trial because the nursing board had demanded $250 to just wash it away. And that was a really live phone call, because when the guy told me, he said, you paid $250, he said, we can wash this away, you can start off. And like I asked him, why would I pay you $250? To me, that's like a holdup. I'm from Chicago. If you want $250 from me, you're going to have to earn it, okay? So like I told him, I'm not sitting with a dime. And if there's any charge against me, I want to see it. We went around in circles until I sent the arbitration minutes to Kim Sessions, and she called me personally to apologize. Now, she's
at least somebody apologizing.
She came straight. That was nice. I'm saying, you know, here is the assistant deputy district attorney for the state that apologized to me, and she's a witness. She kept those documents. I'm glad, okay? Because I told her this will not be the end of it, okay? So right now, we're back at the same square because I was put in double jeopardy, and they made charges like this, and the state complied. They put a little sentence on there after I prevailed that there was a unresolved difference, something like that. But basically, if you were to look at my license online, you would wonder if I was trustworthy. So basically, they're attacking my ability to work.
Sure.
Now, I've saved these documents.
Now, I mean,
I've printed them out, and I've talked to people. Now it's time for the biggie, to lay all this stuff down, because this has been going on for 20 years. 20 years, and I've got 20 years of evidence. I've got pictures, I've got videos.
Yeah, the issue that you, WD and Dellfinia have been facing is not only racism, but also attacks on you because you're leaders of the workers and you still want to fight back.
Absolutely.
You're between the management, which wants to discriminate and run roughshod. They don't want the contract. They don't want protections that workers have. They want to do what they want without you standing up and backing workers up. The question is, if there's systemic retaliation, if there's union busting going on by the city and county of San Francisco, this is illegal. It should be illegal. You shouldn't be able to target shop stewards, senior shop stewards, leaders of the union for this kind of action. And
that's what I spoke with the union about. And they're saying that there's nothing in the contract about busting the shop steward. So how, as a shop steward, as the healthcare industry chairs on the executive board, as the president of the community public health, how come I don't have the protection from the union when I have to do my job as a shop steward? Absolutely. You know, I might not do it according to the state law or something like that, but in the contract, our contract is so vague that it doesn't cover us and protect us for a lot of things. But I would think, not even in the contract, that the union have some kind of language somewhere that protects its members. And I've been trying to reach out to the union to speak about having something that protects its members, protect the shop stewards, protect the e-board. And with the situation with me speaking out against the union, I'm being like ostracized as myself from the union, from the city. They don't want to hear my voice. As a member on all these boards, I should be able to be in meetings. I should be able to be involved in decisions for healthcare for the community public health, along with the registered nurse that is the healthcare person for the RNs. But I'm not included in any of that.
So
because
that's further,
I have a voice for both sides.
That's further discrimination or retaliation if they're
Right.
keeping you out of meetings.
Right, and no lawyer wants to really pick it up because they're saying by the time issues get to the lawyers, the union has messed it up so bad that no lawyer wants to take it. You see what I'm saying? So how do we pay attention to both sides?
But this issue of union busting, systemic union busting, targeting shop stewards,
Yes,
is a way of breaking the union, because then people are afraid to become a shop steward. They're afraid to speak up because they'll be retaliated against. So it basically is union busting. But has the union made that an issue of what's going on?
No, they have not. They have not. I have reached out to speak with Joseph Bryan, Teresa Rutherford, other members that's up. I even called Mary Kay Henry. And to this date, I haven't gotten a call back. There needs to be something done about shop stewards being protected, and I have asked for that. I have asked for that over and over again, in writing, on a voicemail, on a text message, and I'm ignored. I'm ostracized. I won't even get a call back.
And this is why Dellfinia is so important, because she's done this within the union, while I've done it outside, collecting my own evidence. There's much evidence I have not shared with the union because they do try and diminish your case. So you see, with the two of us working in this way, I find it pretty effective, because there's no way they're going to be able to deny this if we wind up in a courtroom forum.
Now, the other issue, you know, that is very critical is what is happening to the frontline workers now who are faced with this pandemic and are being bullied. They're privatizing, they're outsourcing the work. It's a difficult situation to begin with, because there's been a long history of understaffing, not having enough workers in public services. And now to have this pandemic, and the city was unprepared. I know that one of Cheryl Thornton wasn't provided masks. Workers did not have masks. And frontline workers who were screening people didn't even have masks. People were coughing, coming in and coughing. I mean, people could die and have died from not having this protection. So this is a life and death situation. So why don't you
that's the thing I want to say about the COVID-19. I sit on the task force with the management, and we've been asking, Cheryl sits on there as well, and we've been asking in the community public health, at San Francisco General, at Laguna Honda, we have been asking for the proper PPEs. In the jails and in the prisons, we are always forgotten, and we don't have the proper equipment that we need in the jails. And I found out that I think we need shoe covers, head covers, gowns, gargles. According to Johnny Williams, he said that he reached out to management at the jails, and they say we have all of it. Well, I've been back to work since last Friday, what is this, May 7th, May 8th, and there was a nurse that had to deal with a positive client in the jails, and according to her, she didn't have the shields. She had a gown, she had the gloves, she had her N95 mask, but she didn't have a shield, she didn't have the gargles, she didn't have something to cover up, because what I understand as a nurse, and my understanding is that the COVID-19 virus can get in your hair, on your skin, on surfaces. Now, they should be fully protected. We should all be fully protected if we got to go in an area where this client is positive. Even if they're testing them and they test haven't come back, an N95 is not the only thing. Because like members in my community, when I explain it to them how the virus can get on your clothing and stuff, they thinking it's like lice, maybe it can jump or whatever and stuff like that. But I have to retell them, you know, I don't believe it's like that, but I don't know the research. But we're not getting the proper PPEs that we need.
And the issue of education about this disease, it's an airborne disease.
Yes.
It gets in the air and it stays in the air. Some say 8 minutes. It's a very dangerous disease. And if you don't have masks, you know, it's interesting when we saw these pictures in China,
Yes.
how that they were all in gear,
Yes.
in masks, and
Right.
and their whole body was covered up. And the same in South Korea, the same in Taiwan.
Right.
They were prepared. They have
Yes.
proper protection. And that's why no nurse died in South Korea.
Right.
That's why no nurse died in other countries, because they were protected. Yet they expect workers here, healthcare workers, to go into the situation where their lives are in danger, they and their families. I mean, because if you get it, you're fearful of your family. So why weren't they protected? Why weren't they prepared to, and particularly in a jail situation where people are on the street, they're desperate, you know, people don't have healthcare and they come in there, and then you're there to
Right.
deal with that? It sounds like a deadly situation, deadly dangerous situation, where they should put all the equipment there to make sure that you're protected.
That you have everything.
Or
I know.
if we're not using it as a population control. And I was hearing that in China and certain areas over there, that basically this was a tool to use as a population control, because overpopulation is a world problem.
Right.
It's not a world problem right now. You don't hear much about it because people are dying at massive rates. And somebody's going to have to, you know, take the pill for this. Another thing I want to address, you were talking about the psychological injuries to Black workers.
Right.
I went through workers' comp, and I got evaluated by a very noted doctor, Dr. Schneider. And he did 2 evaluations of me, the most in-depth evaluations that I've ever had done of me. And he did this with another PhD. I have been diagnosed not only with PTSD, as you know, I'm a veteran, okay? I've been diagnosed with a sleep pattern disorder. I've been diagnosed with advanced anxiety. And there were 32 pages done here. I won my last claim with them, which is the 3rd claim. So my case is in the hands of the state, and it's still open. So I have to reopen it and be reevaluated. These things have impacted my life. Most of you talk about me lifting weights and being strong and stuff. I have to do this because the pattern from the city is that once you show with these types of anxieties and problems, they route you to a doctor where you get medications and you don't know whether it's Friday or Saturday. And basically this continues on. And this is most of our employees. Basically, some of these people, they forget their medication, they spaz out, they do things. I refuse to take these medications. I would do the exercise, I would do the things to keep my body well. I would go to acupuncture as I have for years. I would go to the treatments that involve me being more aware and cognizant. That's why I'm healthy, but I had to fight it. Every place I was going, they were saying, well, here, you think you need a medication? If I wanted to take drugs, that'd be out on the street. Okay, you can get plenty of them out there. But I'm saying this is the way they've gotten away, because once you start taking those drugs, basically, you're not a reliable person to testify against about anything.
Right.
That's a game. You know,
that was Orlando Turner from the Psychological Benefits Society. She wrote an article on it about the trauma and the effects of racial trauma and biases that we go through.
Yes.
Stuff. So.
Yes.
I just don't. Back to the COVID-19, we do need the equipment. But how do we get it? We're not getting the sufficient one. I think we need to be covered from head to toe when we deal with a positive person. They think we had a person tell one of the jail health nurses, and somebody else told me too, that jail health nurses are not real nurses. And I had to beg to differ. Yes, we're on the front lines too. We're in a closed position.
Yes, you are.
We're in a closed jail, in an enclosed environment, with these people breathing and coughing, going through the vents. The circulation is not effective like it is when you're outside. There's no windows in the jail.
That's right.
You can't raise them up. Somebody sneeze in their arm, do the virus stay on their arm? You know, I didn't find that on the CDC website. If they sneeze in their arm and the virus do it stay on their arm, but I'm figuring there's no cure for it. So it's gotta last for a little bit on your arms like it do in the air.
Yeah.
That sounds like, I mean, a nightmare that you're in that situation without proper PPE. It's like a death sentence. And particularly when we look at the records of African Americans who are dying at much higher percentage.
Much higher rates.
Throughout this country. I mean, why is that? Well, this is an example of why that is. This is an example of why that is. If you're in that situation and you're not protected, and you have health problems, you're under stress, and you have all kinds of these health problems because of the conditions that people have had to live under. That's what happens to you, you know. So the other question, you know.
Let me just say this real quick, Steve, real quick. So when people think of the underlying conditions, they have obesity on there. So if you're not educated, you would think, oh, well, how would me being obese have higher risk with this COVID-19? So I had one person say, well, do the COVID lay in your fat, in the fat deposits, and do it, would it stay there? And I was like, no. So we researched it together, and it said that what happens is, but you're obese, you have harder problems to breathe.
Sure.
You can't breathe good, you get asthma. So that's what they're saying that the underlying condition comes from. So they, it would be nice for people to go to cdc.org and look up why things happen. Why do you have this underlying condition? You know, to how is it going to affect you with the COVID-19? You know, it's very important for people to be educated so they don't think that it lays in your fat deposits. That's just one example.
And the issue of why that information, you have to dig for that information yourself.
Yes.
The SEIU is one of the largest unions in the country. They have 750,000 members in California. 750,000 members in California. They represent healthcare workers.
Yes.
Does SEIU 1021 have a health safety director? Have they gone around to all the locations to provide the information and to say, this is what we're facing, these are our demands to make sure we're protected?
From what I have researched, I don't know if they have a healthcare director. I know they have the nurses like Sasha Cutter, who's great in delivering information. They have that. And but on their website, I was told to go on the SEIU website, look up what they have for COVID-19. Now, I understand our color is purple and they want everything in purple, but in this pandemic, they need to make it stand out in red, because I had a difficult time trying to figure out where to find the COVID information on their website. Can you make it SEIU 1021, local 1021? Can you make the COVID-19 pandemic in red? I'm asking, not for a friend, but for my members, you know? So it was hard to find the information you needed for COVID-19.
And this seems like the basic requirement of a union: protect the lives of your members.
Absolutely.
If you're members in the healthcare industry, you have a responsibility to do what you can to make sure that they are safe and are not going to be killed because of not having information about what they're dealing with this COVID crisis. That's like a basic requirement.
And let's give them credit. They do have the information there. They do have a website to go to CDC, but make it in red, because I spent 20 minutes just trying to find it. I had to go to each one of the little places at the top to find it. It doesn't stand out. It doesn't stand out.
As the SEIU, I mean, the other unions, the NNU and NUSAs in New York, have been having protests in front of work locations demanding PPE, demanding masks. Have the SEIU had any protests saying we demand this PPE?
I believe they have. I think they did it in the car or something like that. But of course, I'm on the healthcare industry board, and of course, because I'm ostracized, I don't get the emails. I don't get a call to come join this, that, and the other.
So I
don't really know.
So they keep you out of the loop, even though you have these positions of responsibility in the union. You're kept out of the loop.
I'm kept out the loop.
Both of us.
Yes.
And I have had to rely on other workers to bring me information about things. This is what I tell them. One of our weaknesses as members: do not hold these things in that are done illegally. Spread them out. Let people know. Okay? This is why they had to get rid of me. You know, they had to get rid of me. I went to the last meeting, which was a Skelly meeting, which they did not have a right to hold because I have not been disciplined. Like I said, there were no incident reports. And I had warned management early on last year. We're talking about as early as November of 2017, January, February, March of 2018. 2018, 2019. I sent these letters directly to the director, Linda Sims, indicating that I was not getting the training. I could only pull 2 medications out of the Omnicell. There were assignments that I was being prepared for that I could not do because they were not giving me the tools. I sent these things through on the city service. And when I got to the meeting, I mentioned this, and they told me they had received nothing. Everybody was there. I mean, I had 4 representatives there. So they said nothing was there, but you know what? They erased everything from the city servers. But I produced those documents because I also sent them to my personal email account. And when I passed those out, that should have stopped everything right there. It's obvious that early in the system, I had complained of something that was crucial. They still haven't addressed that. They didn't want to address that. They did not know I had those documents. I've got documents that go all the way back to 2003, and I want to put them in their face. One of the things I'm advocating for is that many of us, we're not being treated correctly by a union. We're not being corrected by our employers.
Yes.
Why don't we as people look outside this county, because you're not going to find anything in San Francisco. Look outside this county, perhaps even the national board or the state board of NAACP, and file a class action suit, because the information is there, the evidence is there.
Yes, it is.
And if there's systemic discrimination and retaliation, it's improper and it should be challenged. Now, the other issue is retaliation.
Let me say this, Ms. Steve, real quick. Let me just make this clear. I'm not saying that our members should stop paying their dues or desert from the union. That's not what I'm saying, because when I said something before, they felt like, oh, you're telling the members to not pay dues. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not telling them to leave the union. What I am asking is that the union today is not what our grandparents and great-grandparents stood for when we had a union. It was for things that we needed as a whole, like pay raises, and then there was the issues that we needed as an individual, like the retaliation. And the union appears like they can only focus on things that we need as a whole, not as an individual, because they have the individuals have so many biases towards one person that they can't see past what we need to do as a union. And this is what frustrates me and many of my members. We have issues that need to be dealt with as an individual case. So I did want to point that out. I'm not telling
you want a strong union. You want a strong union that backs up the members.
We want a strong union. It's not strong like when our great-grandparents and grandparents went in. One of the reasons I joined the union was because, and paid my dues, is because my grandmother and grandfather fought for it and they never missed a union meeting. But when they never told me about being ostracized and stuff, they always said, this is my brother, this is my sister in the union. And whether we agreed or not, we still come to the table and we talk about it, and we don't ostracize people, we don't ignore them, we don't not put them in the loop of things in a position that they hold in the union. This is what I was taught by my grandparents and my parents when they were in the union. In this union today, they ostracize you. If they don't agree with you, they don't like something you do, you'll get a personal phone call. Why are you calling out the union? The union needs to be called out just like the city and county of San Francisco.
And speaking about the union, what they will do when you come forward with a complaint like I did, they were telling me, well, do you want to retire since you've got 20 years? Retirement is not the issue. This is something that's done wrong that the union is supposed to take up. And then I had a person say something very interesting to me. Well, we want to protect your pension. So if I haven't done anything wrong, why would my pension be in jeopardy? So they would do anything to frighten you. They would do anything to frighten you to try and stop you from lodging this complaint. And as I stood up, because I would get kind of heated with these situations, and I will face you. I'm a veteran. That's what I do. And like I told them, my pension is not important. I'm a veteran. I get a veteran's pension. I can wait till this thing is adjudicated by court. Okay? So if they take my pension away, they can do that. I'll get it back. But these issues need to be done and looked at, because there's criminal conspiracies here. And these people need to be brought up on charges.
Right.
And it raises the issue you were talking about, defending individual members. And there's a brother named Saber Alaoni who put on a garbage bag because they didn't have proper PPE in Highland Hospital. And he put it on, and a picture was taken in Facebook, and then he was terminated.
Yes.
He was terminated basically because they didn't want people to know that this worker and the workers at Highland Hospital weren't getting proper PPE. And the interesting thing about that, he set up a Help Me page, Help Fund Me. His wife has health problems. You know, he's desperate to get support. And, you know, I saw a video of Mary Kay Henry. She was on national TV, and she's talking about how she was on the picket line of the McDonald's workers.
Right, I seen that.
McDonald's workers. And the question I have is, this brother here was terminated illegally.
Yeah.
And his family's in dire need. And she said not a word. And I checked the
Right.
SEIU national website. There's not a word about this guy, this brother, Saber, being terminated, the need to protect workers who are being retaliated against for speaking out about health and safety.
Right. And what they probably did, Steve, was they probably came up with some other allegations about his character. Some past stuff happened 5 years ago. The union didn't say anything about it. This was 5 years ago. This was 3 years ago. Why are we bringing it up and stuff like that, you know? And I just can't believe that they terminated him for wearing the garbage bags, because the nurse at my job said she put a garbage bag on when she didn't have the proper equipment and stuff as well. You know, so I mean, I know it happened, but in my heart, I'm like, that's not the right thing to do for this gentleman.
Well, that's the issue of the management of this company, and it's been outsourced, privatized, Highland Hospital, terminating somebody because they're trying to protect themselves and their family is an outrage.
Right.
And it seems that the union should be having demonstrations every week. This company should be fired. They should be criminally prosecuted. They should be criminally prosecuted. If somebody's trying to protect their health and safety and they get terminated because of that, that should be a crime. These people should be fired and they should be criminally prosecuted. And we're talking about life and death for workers.
And that's what I'm saying about how if it's not something as a whole for everyone, I guess everybody in every spot of the union, 1 out of the 700,000 people have to put on a plastic bag for the union to do anything. But if it's individual, like I said, they don't do too much about it. And they're wrong if that's just the only case about it, that, you know, that he put on a bag, took a picture.
Well, the thing is, the union, I mean, in California, the SEIU has the power, has the membership to make a statewide issue, to demand that he be prosecuted, to demand the Attorney General of California, Xavier Becerra, prosecute these companies who are terminating workers who stand up for their rights and protect themselves. I mean, they need to be, I mean, Newsom, you know, there's going to be a rally tomorrow at the Tesla.
Yes.
Because they're illegally ordering workers to go back to work.
Yes.
Without the protections.
Without the proper protections.
Right.
And the Cal OSHA under Gavin Newsom has less than 200 inspectors. They're not making physical inspections about the health and safety of workers. That's their job.
They've been
protecting workers in health and safety. There's no inspectors to be found. Where is Cal OSHA? Where is Governor Newsom? I mean, that's the question. We pay our taxes to have health and safety inspectors. They've disappeared, and it's not just here. It's in these meat packing plants. It's all over this country. Auto plants, there are no inspectors. And yet the company is doing what they want to do. Musk is violating the law. There's no arrest of him. It's basically a free ride. You can do whatever you want if you're
want to do, right. And they privatize. They're private, so yeah. Also, I feel like they need to hire more people, like they hiring more nurses. They need to hire more people for Cal OSHA to go out and inspect these companies like Tesla and the meat packing companies. They need more people to go out and do that, hire more people. You know, I just got to the point where I don't even watch the news about the COVID-19 anymore because it's so depressing. I mean, it's more could be done. I know there's limited funds and stuff right now, but they also have a general fund that they can go get the money out to put in. They can hire people. I mean, the pandemic, they got a pandemic law that you can do certain things under the pandemic law, you know?
And it's an emergency. They should be hiring 1,000 inspectors to spread out. They should be providing the information.
You know, Steve, what I don't understand is that we went to SARS, we went through SARS-1, we went through the Ebola, we went through all these viruses and all these illnesses in the last, 10 years, maybe more, and nobody's prepared for an election with the virus that's up now. And you think about it, all those Ebolas and SARS-1 was under when people in 911, when people were getting elected and this, that, and the other, they had a lot of time to prepare for these this pandemic, and nobody still didn't put a reserve away.
It's criminally negligent, and it's a system.
Yeah.
They didn't want to spend money on public health.
Right.
And when we talk about public health, you cannot deal with the pandemic with private health care. It has to be a public system.
Right.
And that's what they don't want. I mean, just as spreading out, you've got to organize, you've got to educate people. And
Yes.
this system is being exposed as completely bankrupt. I mean, it's not able to take care of people.
Education with healthcare.
That's
education with healthcare. Why have the information not be disseminated to members and to the general public about how to boost your immune system? There's things you got right in your kitchen that can help you. And I don't see this being put out there. Nationally, I don't see it being put out there. There are things that you can take like elderberry, which is antiviral. There's garlic.
Right.
There's St. John's wort, which is generally used for psychiatric disturbances. But I mean, there are so many substances we have that are naturally in our kitchens that we can use and put this in our system and protect ourselves. I have not seen one telecast about these things. People are in the dark, they're panicking, and it seems like the government has not taken responsibility.
Right.
This is a dire and dangerous situation because people need to be protected, and people are terrorized.
Yes.
By not having this information. So what I mean, the unions, which are our only organization to really defend us, they need to come together. The last issue that I want to talk about now is the budget cuts, because now they're saying that they have to cut the budget. They're laying off teachers. They're laying off public workers. They're laying off healthcare workers. And they say there's a big, they want to cut the wages of city workers, and they want to talking about attacking the pensions. I understand this came up. They want to attack pensions of public workers. You think that this pandemic is being used as an excuse, a justification to go after public workers?
Me personally, I believe as the pandemic went on, I believe that in the long run, people are going to lose their jobs. People are not going to recover from their jobs. And the city and other states are going to do a budget cut, and they're going to try to give people extra retirement to leave the job. People that's been there 20, 30 years, will give you extra time. This is just my thought of it. I'm not saying it's happening, but they give you more time. They want to cut back hours. They want to get rid of people that haven't been here that long. Give them probably a severance pay to save money. That's my outtake on it. And I don't believe there's nothing that the union will probably be able to do about it. They can negotiate who they think should stay and shouldn't stay. You know what I'm saying? I believe that with the LVNs that are what is it, about 100 of us left in San Francisco? I might be wrong on the number, but 3 years ago it was 281, but now I think it's like 100. And I think they might do something with them. Let's move you up a scale as management, or take you down as a medical assistant, something like that. And stuff, or they give you a package to leave and stuff. So I think some changes are going to be made under this pandemic, because all the money they're spending to house all the homeless and buy the hotels, that money has to come from somewhere. And if it is, they're going to have to replenish that money. So it's going to have to come from somewhere. So yes.
Well, one of the things that the unions are not talking about is the 170 billionaires in California, the 70 billionaires in San Francisco. And why shouldn't they pay? They have the money.
Right.
Why shouldn't there be a wealth tax of 50%? I mean, these people are worth hundreds in the case of, Bezos, over 100 billion. You have billionaires, Ellison, over $70 billion.
Yes.
I mean, you have this tremendous wealth right here in San Francisco, right here in California, yet Newsom and these politicians, not one word, not one whisper about making the people that have the money pay for this.
Yes. They're going to try to tax the working class and the poor. They're going to try to tax us on it at the end of this when it's all over and said with. I think I agree with you. The billionaires need to pay something to help out. I mean, you can't die and take it with you. If you get the COVID-19, you can't take it with you. You're going to leave it to your family or some kind of estate. Yeah. They need to be taxed or something to help put the money back to help everyone else.
And where did they get their money? They got it from the people.
From the people, right? Because we don't spend.
People. Yeah, that's all these people
don't spend and buy unnecessary stuff like the toilet paper and paper towels. They hoard that stuff. It's always newspaper people.
Let me say this to everybody that's listening. You cannot eat toilet paper.
Steve. There needs to come from somewhere, and why not start at the top, the 1%?
That's right. And we've got a lot of them in San Francisco.
It's what, 70? You said?
74 billionaires in San Francisco. And when you talk about cutting wages, attacking pensions of public workers who work their whole life, and you've got 70 billionaires in San Francisco, no way. You know, I mean, go after the billionaires, make them pay for this crisis, because it shouldn't be working people who do the work, or public workers who are on the front lines trying to defend people, to help the people in this tremendous pandemic and tremendous crisis.
Yes.
Okay, well, I want to thank both of you for joining us on Work Week, and I think we need to continue this discussion because we got a lot of work to do. I mean, the whole issue of protecting health and safety, demanding that Governor Newsom hire 1,000 inspectors. They start inspecting, providing the equipment, providing PPE for all workers, and also stopping the termination of workers who stand up for their rights and say, we want protection. We have to be protected. So I think we have a critical jobs in front of us, and I want to thank you for joining us on Work Week to go over. I just want to say one thing. I would like to see that he hire 1,000 inspectors, even if it's for provisional for 3 years until we get through this pandemic, to make sure that our people are safe, not just members and employees, people, period, that has to work in a non-union place like Tesla. You know, I would love to see that. I would love for Newsom to hire these people. Well, unfortunately, in the case of Tesla, Governor Newsom is allowing the Fremont police to go to Tesla to make a determination of whether Tesla is treating the workers safe.
No, the police
are not trained for that. They're not trained for that.
Since when are police knowledgeable about health and safety protection in an auto plant? That's what I would like to know.
At the same time, they got knowledgeable like Trump.
They're standing at the door looking to determine whether something's safe, and they're picking at their nose at the same time. Okay?
It is absolutely crazy. When I saw that, you know, that the police are going to decide whether or not workers are safe. Workers are safe in the Tesla factory. We got a real serious system problem in this state and in this country. You know, like the police are knowledgeable. They're afraid of contaminating themselves, much less protecting the workers in that factory.
I want to thank Sisters for Justice for supporting me to do this interview, and because at first I was kind of scared. So Sisters for Justice, thank you. Because I was scared, like what I should do. Because a lot of times, Steve, you don't have to put this in there. Not this part. That I give a lot of information. I give names and stuff.
I do too.
And dates and stuff. So it was like just be natural with it. Just not give all the names. Because I got a lot of names I wanted to throw.
Well, I believe that we got to get the truth out in this country to people.
Yeah.
The truth is the only thing that will make us free. People have to know the truth, whether it's about the pandemic, about how to protect yourself, these issues, we have to have the truth for survival at this point. And that's why it's such a critical issue. So thanks for joining us on Work Week.
You're welcome. Thank you. When are you going to have the video out?
I'll have it in a day or two. I'll work on it a little bit and we'll get it out and let people know we need change and we need justice.
We need change, and we need change now within the city, from the department heads, DHR down, and within the union. We need change. We need people that's going to fight for our agenda, for everyone, for the African Americans that's disproportionately messed up with this biases and racial stuff and trauma that we go through.
Yeah.
We need to help members that are also going through it on another end. But we need change. We need change now. That's the big thing.
And solidarity with each other.
And that's the thing. The union is so split right now. They are so split, and the city knows it. They know that the people are split. They don't like the president they trying to pick for next time. They don't like the things that they're doing. They're trying to call a meeting for it, for the leadership, all kind of stuff, you know? But yeah.
We got to overcome. Okay.
Thank you, Steve. Have a good one.
Thank you, Steve.